Next up this evening, flip my notes around, is Kim Marvin. Now, some people think that Kim's life began at birth, but her journey started long before. She is going to share with us the remarkable story of forgiveness that completely erased her hard, long nightmare. By God's grace, she has endured much suffering and is called to give a voice to the voiceless and a hope to the brokenhearted. Through the Abortion Survivors Network, she will continue to connect, share the truth, and touch many victimized by abortion. Will you help me welcome Kim Marvin?
Good evening, everyone. Are all of you familiar with this pamphlet called Precious Feet? 25 years ago, I was handed this pamphlet at my church. It covers the milestones of developmental changes and growth from conception to 4 months in the womb. Attached is a pin with the actual size and shape of a 10-week-old baby's feet. It's on the back of this pamphlet that has this profound saying. Some people think my life began at birth, but my life journey started long before. This is so true for me. My story starts with a nightmare. When I was a little girl, as far back as I could remember, I had a recurring nightmare. It would start with a feeling. I was terrified as I moved through this foggy place. I came to a dark, webby, veiny environment with a black object in the upper left-hand corner. That object would move, change shapes, and get closer year after year. Can I ask you a question? What would you do in your seat right now if there was an object up on this stage that was advancing towards you and was going to take your life? Would you push back? I actually remember pushing back and being on guard. In fact, I don't remember anything other than pushing back and being on guard and watching that thing come towards me. At age 15, I woke from this nightmare. I was terrified, crying, screaming. I went running into my parents' room. They turned on the light, they sat up. Not a big crier. I said, I cannot do this anymore. I have a nightmare that I cannot get rid of. And tonight, I was in this webby, veiny environment, and this black object that was in the upper left-hand corner came right up to me. I can't do it. As I tell them this story, I watch the color drain from their faces. My dad looked at my mother. He said, "You know what she's describing?" My mom said yes. My mother said 5 words that I will never forget. I almost had you aborted. My parents were high school sweethearts who found themselves pregnant. You would think that this news would be devastating. But honestly, miraculously, I was so relieved to know what I had been living with for 15 years was I was in my mother's womb. Abortion is a nightmare. It's a nightmare for women like my mother who went through it thinking it was going to solve her problem. It's a nightmare for the baby growing in her mother's womb. In what should be the safest place on earth. The nightmare of abortion has taken the lives of over 65 million people who are not here to share their gifts, their talents, and their abilities with all of us. When I found out I had survived an abortion, it's quite lonely. There's really nobody to talk to. I didn't know another abortion survivor. I don't go to coffee and discuss with my friends being an abortion survivor. There's no checkbox at the doctor's office admitting or indicating that I'm an abortion survivor. At least that's what I thought 10 years ago. And I ran into Abby Johnson. In fact, I didn't run into her, I tackled her, and I said, I'm an abortion survivor. I need to talk to somebody. She saw the desperation, and she gave me Melissa Oden's contact information. That, since obviously you see, Melissa has started the Abortion Survivor Network, where over 600 of us are sharing our gifts and talents with all of you. According to this study by Dr. Willard Cates, then the director of the CDC in 1981, since Roe versus Wade legalized abortion in 1973, which we know is no more, thank you, Jesus, it is established that 400 to 500 babies survived an abortion each year. As you saw on the screen, this still is mind-blowing. Their mothers, fathers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, all sharing their talents with us. I believe it was not an accident that I survived an abortion. I do believe it was a miracle, but not an accident. A life is a life. Am I any more me at 3 years of age than I was at 2 months in my mother's womb? Let me answer that for you. No, there's no difference. I have been me since conception, no matter what size I am. Does somehow the passage through that birth canal somehow make me more me? I don't think so. Even the God of the universe sent his son to the earth in his mother's womb. Where would we be if Mary felt this pregnancy was inconvenient? Unexpected pregnancy, pregnant before she was married. I have to say, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to all of you who sacrifice your time and your talents to help those who face the nightmare of an abortion. The night when I described the reoccurring dream to my parents, I couldn't help but see the face of my mother and how much pain she was in. Like me, she'd been traumatized by the abortion attempt. She said to me, Kim, I am so sorry. Do you forgive me? I said, yes. I forgive you. I love you. This is when one of the biggest miracles happened in my life. I no longer would have this nightmare. It completely vanished. My nightmare vanished because of the exchange between a mother and a daughter. I have to tell you the sense of peace that I had that moment was something I've needed all of my life. That saying on the back of this beautiful pamphlet, some people think my life journey started at birth. My life journey started long before my birth, and he walked with me the whole time. Thank you, and God bless you.